I have and that out and that they know the details. Chances are we're going to pretty much go along with what they think.
Oh, damn. Did I do that?
Probably. What did you press?
Nothing. I didn't press a thing.
Well, what's wrong with it? I think you did.
Well, maybe.
So what? It looks nice. I like that.
Jim did that. He went and he touched them.
Water rate increases.
What's the blinds don't give us any security. Nobody's that tall that could see in it.
Oh, there's a sniper up there.
No, I
Hey,
just
I'm just,
I pulled it open to look, and all of a sudden they open. I didn't do it. I don't care what anybody says. No, I did. I pulled it open.
What-
to
yeah,
look.
where-
What you mean is you didn't do it intentionally.
Went and touched them.
Did do it. I saw you do it.
Hello? Okay, that's what I was thinking. Nope, Brandon's the culprit.
Going to be
Things
some
fall.
timing
There's
things.
always going to be some things.
Have rates to do this? But
Fine with doing what we need.
if we're going to get to 10, we better have a plan of how. Drawing it down is fine. I'll tell you what
It is 5 o'clock, and I call to order the meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. And the City Council sitting is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistics Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the Victorville Housing Trust. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Kennedy,
Here.
Councilmember McEachran, Councilmember Negretti,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cox,
Here.
Mayor Garcia.
Here. This is the time when we have public comments, but I don't see anyone in the audience that would like to address the council. Therefore, I will ask our city attorney to give us the declaration of closed session items, please.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. We actually have 9 items this evening, although several of the items are related, and so it boils down to probably about 4 items. Items A and C are existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. That is the SEC versus City of Victorville litigation. Item A is for the Airport Authority. Item C is for the City Council. Items B and D are also related. That is also existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. That is K&D Affiliates LLC versus the City of Victorville. Case number, as with the other case, is all set forth on the agenda. And item B is for the Airport Authority. Item D is for the City Council. Items E, G, and H are all related. They are real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The property is set forth on the agenda, as are the negotiating parties. And items F and I are also related. They are also real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. The parcel numbers are set forth on the agenda, as are the negotiating parties. Items F is for the City Council, as is item E. Items G is for the Rail Authority. Items H and I are for the redevelopment agency, successor agency to the redevelopment agency. To the extent there is reportable action, we will report it at the conclusion of the closed session or at the commencement of the regular 6 o'clock session.
Thank you. There be no further comments. We will recess to closed session. It is 6:01, and I call to order the meeting of the City Council of the City of Victorville. And the City Council sitting is the Library Board of Trustees, Southern California Logistics Rail Authority, Southern California Logistic Airport Authority, successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency, the Victorville Joint Powers Financing Authority, the Victorville Water District, and the Victorville Housing Trust. May we have roll call, please?
Councilmember Kennedy?
Here.
Councilmember McEachran? Here. Councilmember Negretti?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Cox?
Here.
Mayor Garcia?
Here. At this time, can we have closed session announcements by our city attorney, please?
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. We actually had 9 items listed on the agenda. However, several of them were related. Items A and C were existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1, and the case names and information is set forth on the agenda. A is for the Airport Authority. C was for the City Council. Items B and D were related, also existing litigation pursuant to Government Code 54956.9 D1. Again, the parties and the case number is set forth on the agenda. Items E, G, and H were all related, real property negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. One item was for the City Council, one item was for the Rail Authority, and the other was for the successor agency to the redevelopment agency. The property is set forth on the agenda, as are the negotiating parties. And lastly, items F and I also were real estate negotiations pursuant to Government Code 54956.8. And again, the parcel numbers and parties to negotiate are set forth on the agenda. F was for the City Council, and I was on behalf of the successor agency. At this point, there is no reportable action on any of those items.
Thank you. We'll have the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be delivered by Pastor Dane Davis, First Christian Church, and the Pledge of Allegiance will be led by our Police Chief, Sam Lucia. Please stand.
Thank you, Mayor Garcia. Felt like this scripture would be appropriate to share tonight. I'm not sure why, but I trust there's some reason. Ecclesiastes 3, there is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under heaven, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain, a time to search and a time to give up, a time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, a time to be silent and a time to speak. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we know that when it comes to leadership, so often timing is everything. And so we pray, oh God, as the city council of ours in the city of Victorville makes decisions tonight, that you would give them wisdom, discernment, and guidance as they speak. Lord, teach them when to speak and when to refrain. I pray, oh God, that they would lead this city not only by making the right decisions, but, Lord, by making the right decisions at the right time. And we thank you that you are a God of all wisdom, a God of all discernment, a God of all knowledge. And so we lean on you tonight. We entrust our leaders to your care. I pray that you would guide them as they lead this city. And we thank you for these leaders. We lift them up to you and pray your blessing upon this meeting and the decisions that are made. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We do have one presentation this evening. This presentation will be given by Dana Armstrong, and I will come down and meet her.
Thank you very much, Mayor Garcia and members of the City Council. I'm here tonight to recognize the winners of our Victorville Recycles Week event. You may recall back in November we had a proclamation of November as Victorville Recycles Week. And during November we had a competition with the local schools, and now we're here tonight to recognize the winners of that competition. Victorville Recycles Week is sponsored by the City of Victorville and Burtech Waste Industries. It began back in November of 2007, so this is the 9th year that we've been doing this event. It's intended to increase the awareness of and participation in the city's recycling programs by getting our local schools and youth involved. During Recycles Week, schools participate in various activities to earn points. The schools that earn the most points can win cash prizes. Individual students can also win prizes for a poster contest and a sculpture contest. And prizes are sponsored by Burtech Waste Industries as well as the City of Victorville Recycling Program. A few of the highlights of this year's event, this was one of the biggest, I think this was the biggest and best that we've had so far. We had 18 schools participate, including 6 of our high schools and middle schools, which I'm very excited about. We have such great schools in Victorville. We had 1,167 posters from 16 different schools. 102 sculptures were turned in. Sharon Mitchell, who I'll invite up in a moment, from Burtech did 80 in-class presentations to about 3,000 students. We had 10 schools sign up for assembly programs of, it's a song and dance assembly program called All That Trash, or Singin' Green, about recycling, and that was presented to about over 6,000 students. We had 8 schools sign up for the community cleanup with 460 volunteers. 4 schools submitted YouTube contest videos, and the winner will be posted on our Facebook page. And we had 8 schools schedule tours of the MRF with about 500 students seeing the MRF. All told, we estimate that we made contact with over 11,000 students this year as part of Victorville Recycles Week. And since the program started back in 2007, we estimate that we've contacted over 66,000 students through this program. At this time, I'd like to invite Sharon Mitchell, Municipal Program Manager for Burtec, to come forward. She's carrying some nice things, some certificates and a trophy. Maybe we'll put the trophy on the table because it weighs a lot. That's a blue recycling can on top. It's a perpetual trophy for the grand prize winner. I would like to acknowledge Victorville Disposal and their support of Victorville Recycles Week. It's a Burtec company, and they're the collector of the city of Victorville's trash and recyclables. They're a co-sponsor, financial co-sponsor of the event, but more importantly, Sharon is the main coordinator of this event and does 99.99999% of the work to get this thing done. So thank you very much, Sharon, for your work on this project. So with that, I would like to now announce the winners. We will start with the winner of the Recycled Sculpture Contest. You may have seen the sculpture as you walked in. It was in the foyer. It is an absolutely beautiful sculpture, and it was created by Janine Martinez. Can you please come forward? Come on up. Great. Okay. And we'd like to get a picture of you with the mayor and Sharon. Okay. And I'm going to bow out. I'm going to have the ladies in red. Janine is a fourth grader at West Creek Elementary School, and as I said, we had over 100 sculptures, and this was definitely the consensus winner. As soon as we all started judging the sculptures, our eyes just went to that beautiful bird. It's created from cereal boxes, and the level of detail that you put into it is amazing. So congratulations very much. She wins a $100 prize. If I can read it without my reading glasses there. So there is your check for the grand prize winner. Congratulations. Great job. Next, I would like to invite Brandon Pham to come forward. He is the winner of our recycling poster contest. He is a senior at Cobalt Institute of Math and Science. And please come forward. And we had over 1,000 posters. Here, why don't you stand between Sharon and Mayor Garcia. We had over 1,000 posters submitted as part of this contest, and his was great. It had a very simple message: you can recycle, and we want to inspire people to recycle as well. Great job, and congratulations. Here's your check. Thank you very much. Next, I'd like to present the winner of the Top Point School. This is the first place school. I'd like to invite representatives from Mountain View Montessori School to come forward. I have to say, it's starting to be a little bit of a dynasty with Mountain View Montessori. They're the little school that could. They have won 3 of the last 5 years. It's not fixed. They just do amazing things, as do the other schools. I just want to say they're the only school that's ever won 3 years in a row. Not 3 years in a row, but 3 years, three times, and. For winning, they get a $1,000 prize, which has been donated by Burtec. And more importantly to them, they get to hold on to the perpetual trophy for one more year. And they've done a fantastic job. Just real quick, they submitted 130 posters. They had 8 sculptures, 9 in-class presentations. They did the assembly program. They toured the MRF. They have an on-site textile recycling bin, and apparently, according to Sharon, they won 2nd place throughout the entire state for a clothing recycling program this year. And they've totally incorporated recycling into their curriculum. They have a program on campus that you cannot believe. It's my envy for City Hall, actually. Someday I want to be as good as Mountain View Montessori's program. And they've just done a fantastic job. So congratulations. It's something really to be proud of. And there's your check. Good job. And maybe we'll see you next year, or maybe not. The other schools get very competitive, so we'll see. But congratulations. Excellent. All right. Thank you. And just one final thing I'd like to wrap up. You know, the prizes are fun, but in the big picture, every pound of trash that goes in a trash can in Victorville goes to the landfill. It costs the city over $2.7 million a year to dispose of that trash. The whole point of this program is to encourage people to recycle. If you put the right things in the recycling bin, you save money, you save resources. Our recycling program last year in Victorville saved over $300,000 in landfill disposal costs, and that helps our residents and businesses. So we really want to just get the word out there. And as a final note, I'd just like to thank all the schools, the parents, the students. Thank Burtek, thank Sharon, thank the City Council for your time letting me get up here and go on and on about this great program. And thank you all for also listening, and encourage everybody to recycle. And I'd like to also have one final round of applause for all the winners and for Sharon for her effort. Thank you very much.
At this time, I will ask our city clerk to present any agenda or any revisions to our agenda.
The City Council of the City of Victorville welcomes the public's participation in tonight's meeting. Persons who wish to address the council on a specific item or any item that does not appear on the agenda are requested to complete one of the white speaker cards located in the council chambers lobby and give it to the city clerk prior to the meeting. The mayor will call upon each individual who has submitted a speaker card. Pursuant to Government Code Section 54954.3, state law prohibits the council from addressing any issue not previously included on the agenda. The council may receive testimony and set the matter to a subsequent meeting. Comments are to be limited to 3 minutes per speaker or less as deemed necessary by the mayor. Communications are to be addressed directly to the city council. Individual comments to staff or members of the audience are not permitted. Any individual or group who engages in disruptive conduct during the meeting will be removed from the chambers by order of the mayor. All documents to be considered for approval at this meeting are before the City Council, and there are no revisions that have been received for tonight's agenda. Mayor Garcia.
Thank you. Now we move on to public hearings. And I open the public hearing with item B1. And this is granting of public convenience and necessity certificate to All Care Transport LLC. And I don't have any cards for this particular item here. Do we have any comments or from our council members? If not, I will close the public hearing. And can you please read the recommendation, City Clerk?
Yes, the recommendation is that the City Council adopt Resolution Number 16-001, which would find and declare that the public convenience and necessity justify and require the granting of a certificate of public convenience and necessity to All Care Transport, LLC.
For approval.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor Garcia, before we get into B2, this is one of those issues that comes up every year, and I'm hugely supportive of, but because of my relationships with so many of the applicants, as well as having been a provider of insurance services for many of those that will apply, it's just proper that I abstain on this item, so I'm going to step off the dais.
Very well.
And for similar reasons, I don't know how many of my clients are applying, but I do audit work for a couple of the nonprofits, so I'm going to excuse myself too.
Very well. Well, we still have 3 left.
That's what you need.
All we need. Okay, I will continue. This is item B2, and I open the public hearing. And this is Housing and Community Development HCD grants for fiscal year 2016-2017. And I do have some cards. The first one is Matthew Kaufman.
Good evening. Thank you for your time. I just wanted to take a few moments to thank you for the support that we've received from the City of Victorville in years past for a collaborative contract with Rose of Sharon, providing emergency resources and referrals to families here in the Victor Valley. We will be applying again as a similar collaborative. We're excited for that, as well as for an employment development program that we've been operating over the last year. So I just would like to thank you for the recipients, or for the receipts in the past, and look forward to your consideration for this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Jimmy Waldron.
Evening, Mayor Pro Temp, and council member. I'm Jimmy from High Desert Homeless Services. I also would like to thank you guys for your continued efforts and support of helping us to supply a warm and safe place for people who have temporarily found themselves homeless, so we can get them to that next level. And we too are submitting a grant this upcoming year, and we would wish to ask you guys for your support and consideration in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person is Darren Finkstead.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Honorable City Council, members of the Victorville City. Darren Finkstead, President and CEO of Desert Banna. This will be our first time coming before you with the CDBG grant, because we are looking to expand. There's been a huge demand to do a food bank and distribution center for all of the surplus food to help accommodate the various nonprofits and all of the public feeding kitchens, churches, etc. There's no organization here, and we've been very successful with it in Barstow. In fact, we supplied over 50,000 pounds of surplus food to Victorville alone. So we have the infrastructure. We've identified a location that's in the downtown off 7th Street. We're working with Bradco on the purchase of this building. We think this acquisition is very beneficial for the community of Victorville, because instead of all of your Victorville clients having to go down to Feeding America or Community Action Partnership, we already partner in MOU with them, plus having a refrigerated truck and many other assets, that there's been a huge push by your community for us to open up shop and provide these services to the Victorville community. We're very excited about it. So we are asking for your support on that. The building is in a blight area that, with our properties, would help improve that district. And it will meet our needs of 7,000 plus square foot. This building's been sitting for some time. And although it is not supposedly zoned for that, we would be looking at probably a variance. It's in a not a warehouse district, but it's and I believe it is called a CS district, not in your standard warehouse district. But it will probably require a variance, but it fits very nicely into the rest of the community that has industry and businesses. So we are looking for your support on this evaluation. We have been working with a lot of Victorville agencies as it is to bring those resources to your low and moderate income. We will be looking to open a huge pantry and that will provide emergency food baskets to all of your various working poor and poverty. And we have a long track record of working with HUD and other various organizations. So we're real excited to provide this for your Victorville community. We hope to get your support on that. This will be our first time moving into the Victor Valley, but that is our only intent. We won't be moving any of our other programs here. We're very busy in the Barstow area. But we have a proven track record, and like I said, we work very closely with a lot of your leaders in the nonprofit who have expressed interest for us to provide those services and not have to make that 100-mile round trip down below for these resources, and be able to get all of your grocery stores. We work with Walmart. We have MOUs with all of these organizations, and be able to grocery store chains and have all of those items stay in your Victorville community so that that surplus could be redistributed out to your low and moderate income people. So this is new. This is new for us. We will be taking a building that's an eyesore and make it a real asset, and we'll be working with you and your guidance to be sure that we're meeting those requirements. So this will be coming towards you, just to let you know, and we want to thank you for that opportunity. We've been in business since 1986, so we have a really good proven track record. And if there's anything else, I just wanted to inform you as to what our processes will be and what those benefits will be if we're able to move forward with that here in the city of Victorville. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next person is Mary Leah Reese. Mary Lee?
Good evening. I'm the president of High Desert Transitional Living Connection, and I'm fighting a battle of major sciatica right now, so that's why I'm limping as bad as I am. But hopefully this will show you my intent and interest in being here. This is the first time I've applied for a CDBG grant, but I've had my nonprofit since 2008. Working in the community for the last 20 years. We are working with emancipated foster youth, at-risk youth, low-income families, and homeless. Right now we provide food and clothing and a home for a couple of individuals, but we want to expand that, and we hope that the community of Victorville will help us out in that. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next person is Midge Nikosha.
Hi, my name is Midge Nicosi. I'm the Executive Director for the Victor Valley Community Services Council. The Victor Valley Community Services Council turns 60 years old today, this year. Not today, but this year. We become a 60-year-old organization. We originally started back in 1956 and actually were essential in starting a lot of the nonprofits that exist today, including the homeless shelter, bringing the Desert Communities United Way to the High Desert, the High Desert Center, a lot of the services. But today we provide free programs for our low-income senior citizens and those with disabilities. And I'm here today to ask for your support. I've been working and talking with your economic development group about our home repair program. We are pretty much on speed dial with the city of Hesperia and the town of Apple Valley. Whenever they have a senior citizen call in with an issue, whether it's something we provide or not, we connect them with services. We have a variety of services, but the only one that I'm asking you to help us support in your city is our minor home repair for health and safety issues for our senior citizens and those with disabilities. We do things that help seniors remain safe in their home. I know that the city has a fund, a senior home repair program that is a $15,000 grant for seniors. I know that they have a waiting list, and it's a couple-year process to get that going with some of our seniors. I wanted to relay a story about a senior that I've been trying to help for several months and that lives in the city of Victorville that had someone break out her windows in her home. This lady is very frail. She's disabled. She had her house open to the elements. The quote that we got to make the repair was at the lowest price, $1,300. We could not afford to make the repair because we get a total of $17,000 for the whole high desert to do repairs from the Department of Aging and Adult Services for those cities beyond Hesperia and Apple Valley. And we go to Barstow as well for those repairs. When we came to economic development to see if she could apply for that money, she could indeed apply for it, but it wasn't recommended because the grant is a one-time fund and it would be a waste of those dollars for her. And the service wouldn't be able to be accommodated until she got to the top of the list, which could be a couple years. Our services are pretty much expedient. Within a couple of weeks, we provide service. What we do need is the funding to keep our services going in the city of Victorville. Because we have those matching CDBG dollars with Hesperia and Apple Valley, we're able to help those residents with those repairs. And these are repairs that keep them safe in their homes. We do small to mid repairs. We do as small as installing a grab bar to keep a senior able to be safe in her bathroom at home, to as large as installing a wheelchair ramp. With working with construction funds, which we're going to be applying for through economic development, we'll be able to do some larger repairs. Things like replacing hot water heaters. We've had seniors go without water for long periods of time. We had one lady who was actually showering at her neighbor for 2 years because she just couldn't afford to replace her hot water heater. We have seniors here living in some pretty dilapidated conditions, and they need our support. The city of Victorville is one of those holes that we need help with because we just don't have the funds to accommodate all the calls that we get. And so working hopefully with the city and using some of those funds for more expedient measures, making those repairs that are really, really needed. I would really appreciate the support of the council on this effort. So we are going to be applying for those funds. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. That was the last card that I have. And so at this time, I will close the public hearing. Do we have any comments from council members?
I have a comment. This is the public hearing, and we've taken the information. People who are asking for these grants, can they submit applications later, or do you have applications that have been submitted but they didn't appear at the hearing?
Yeah, I can take a stab, and I've also got staff here in attendance to answer any more detailed questions. So what tonight is about is a part of the process, the initial process. We're in the middle of the application stage right now where we're taking applications, and we'll be shortly reviewing and screening the applications. The process that we're involved in right now actually started back in November, and that's to deal with the development of our annual action plan for the 16-17 fiscal year. We're expecting approximately $1.3 million collectively amongst the various types of funding sources that we will have to decide how to spend based upon the application, and then also based upon the needs that you're not only hearing back in November, but you're also hearing again here tonight. So we take the needs of the citizens to help establish priorities, then we subsequently will review them collectively. To answer your question directly, if they haven't submitted an application already, the deadline is January 28th.
Now, when is the next time that these individuals who have made an application or appeared here, when is the next time they will have some kind of a notification from the city
Sure.
that they can make a presentation again, or their request has been voted on, or they've been approved or denied? When does that occur?
Okay, so the next procedural steps, what we're envisioning is at the next council meeting, likely the first meeting in February, we'll actually appoint members of this council to serve on the committee, and then we're actually envisioning, I believe it is February 18th, for which the actual committee will sit down and actually review all the applications and try to draw conclusions and make recommendations back to this council, expecting that a formal recommendation before the collective council will be April of this year. So we're right at the initial steps of the entire process. if we can stay on schedule and hear the recommendation at April 5th, 2016, that would be when we actually decide what applicants will receive the funds. Those funds then become available July 1st as a part of the 16-17 fiscal budget.
Keith, thank you.
Thank you, Keith. There's no further action necessary at this time. So I will move on to B3. This specific plan amendment to the Desert Gateway Specific Plan, PLN 15-00027, is set forth in ordinance number 2353, resolution number 16-002, and resolution 16-003. At this time, I open the public hearing. And I do have two cards, I'm sorry. And the first one is Gary Kuntz.
Good evening. My name is Gary Kuntz. I'm the Corporate Facility Project Manager for Burtech Waste Industries. We have gone through the conditions of approval as submitted by your staff and approved by your Planning Commission. We agree with all conditions as submitted. We ask that you approve the project subject to the recommendation of your Planning Commission. With me tonight is Steve Cano, our Director of Recycling, and John Davis from your JPA, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you may have on the project.
Questions?
One question. There was something in the paper yesterday, I think. Can't remember which paper. I get 2 or 3 of them. About recycling mattresses and box springs.
Yes.
Is that something you do? Is
Yes.
that going to be part of this project? We're so tired of seeing dead mattresses in the desert. I'm just hoping if there's a way to dispose of those, we'd sure be happy.
I build these things. These guys operate
I
them.
thought they took them and put them on top of Volkswagen.
I'm John Davis. I administer the Mojave Desert and Mountain Recycling Authority, 9-member Joint Powers Authority, including the City of Victorville. Yes.
Good.
There will be. We will accommodate the mattresses at the recycling facility. Dana Armstrong's already arranged to have those mattresses, and she's begun to receive them right at the city's drop-off center on Anacapa.
That would mean couches and couch cushions?
Not yet. We're going to work on furniture next. But mattresses, the Mattress Recycling Council was created by state legislation. They receive money on the sale of each new mattress. That money will be used to provide free mattress recycling for residents. Any mattresses that we receive at either of those facilities will be loaded into a container provided by the Mattress Recycling Council. We will get a small reimbursement to actually load the container. They will take the mattresses away. If mattresses are unusable, cannot be recycled, they're so spoiled or damaged, we will take them to the landfill, and we will be reimbursed for those costs. So we're relieving the city of a pretty substantial cost to handle and dispose or recycle of the mattresses now. It's a brand new state program. Carpet is the next program.
What about old cars with weeds growing up under them? No.
Yeah, that's part of this project.
Those are called
Dig 'em
classic
up and
cars. Classic cars, Jim. Not old. Those are classic.
Yeah, we'll take those.
Cox has some of those.
We'll take the weeds too.
Thank you. I have now Joe Vale.
Joe Vale, 16993 Abbey Lane, right across the street from the MRF here in Victorville. At the Planning Commission meeting where I appeared to get questions answered, I asked to go to the Fontana recycling facility and find out about what they had there. And I'm pleased that the gentleman tonight didn't say that the mulching, the recycling of all the food and the green waste, and also I'm glad he didn't say that it doesn't smell. I went down to their facility at Fontana, visited with Steve, went through the management, all the facility around there. And even though the mulching process that they're talking about is not horrendously obnoxious, it stinks. And I would strongly recommend that all of you city councilmen, city attorneys, all you people, go to Fontana, get with Steve, take a tour of the facility, and find out the smells. Because if they put this facility in where they're talking about doing it, it'll be within about 200 yards of my house, about 150 yards of a neighbor's house, about a quarter of a mile from all the residential area in Dante. Depending upon the way the wind's blowing, they may get a very nice smell. You recall here in the past the Nutro dog food plant out here on Hesperia Road. And the people, I guess, all the way over toward Apple Valley complaining about the stink of the dog food being made. Well, I want you to understand something. I'm 100% in favor of recycling, and I don't think the mattresses should go ever to the landfill. Period. The mattress can be taken apart. All the materials can be recycled. The springs that are in it can be recycled. There's no reason for any of that to go to the landfill. But there are things that need to be considered. For instance, the odors that will be produced by this facility. Now, they talk about it being in a building. Well, in talking with Steve about these things, if they put this other food process in there and they bring it all in and mix it with the green mulch and everything and process it into it, there's going to be an odor. And if they exhaust it to the atmosphere, that odor is going to be out. Now, one of the things I suggested is they get with engineering and put in activated charcoal filters, other things to eliminate the odors escaping from their building where they're first going to process this. Now, once it comes out of that building and goes into the bunkers where they'll be letting it age to break it down, there will be additional odors that come from that. Not horrendous, but definitely odors. Now, in the future, I've lived on Abbey Lane since 1978. And in the future, as that area grows and develops, if they ever put the crosstown realignment of Highway 18 and all those other things go in, there's an opportunity, at least for that area, to have restaurants, light manufacturing, other types of things taking place. And I can tell you for a fact, if I was manufacturing something, I would not want to be next door to their Fontana plant. Because that Fontana plant stinks. And if you get anywhere near the MRF, and you're around downwind from it, it stinks. You can't possibly bring all the garbage and things together without having an odor. So, I'm not against recycling. I'm 100% in favor of recycling. I've been recycling since I was in second or third grade. Third grade. Trying to make money. As my grandfather told me how to make money, how he did it during the Depression. So I went out working, trying to do things to make some money. So I've always been in favor of recycling. And I'm not against this project being done, but they need to make modifications to things to control the stench so that it doesn't emit odors that will run other businesses off. Now, the good thing of it is it's right next to the railroad track for Southwestern Cement, well, CEMEX now. So the people to the west, if there should be anything built there, that's all cement-owned property. But when you go north and east, there's the church right there to the east of it, and other properties right there, and they're wanting to put a big development in just to my east and south. And if those businesses go in and you've got a restaurant or something like that, that odor is not conducive to having a nice meal. So I strongly recommend that you guys take the time, go down and visit with Steve at Fontana, go through their facilities, see what's going on before you vote to do this thing. Like I said, I'm not against it, but there needs to be some, I would say, great consideration given to the odor abatement.
Thank you, sir. That was the last card that I had on item B3. So at this time, I close the public hearing. Do we have any comments by our city council members?
I have a couple of questions, Madam Mayor. Mr. Vale indicated his property and the neighbor. How many residences live there? There are 2 houses or 3? 3, that's what I thought. Okay. I know you raised the question of the dog food plant and how long that took, but there was regulatories and rules that it finally got handled. It got expensive for them, but it was handled. Is there any kind of regulatory requirements? Who is the regulatory agency in case there are complaints regarding vermin or flies or noise or odor.
Gary Kuntz with Burtec. First of all, we have to get a permit from the local enforcement agency, which is County Environmental Health. That's an operating permit. We have to write a plan. It's called a transfer processing report. In this case, actually, it's called a report of facility information that addresses all environmental issues, explains how we're going to deal with odors, litter, vectors, everything. That gets approved by the LEA, local enforcement agency, and concurred with by Cal Recycle. That is the plan that every month the local enforcement agency comes out and inspects our facility. They've been inspecting this facility every month since it opened. So you've got that side of it. If there's a complaint, you can call environmental health and they will come out. Since they're out here every month, if they smell odors, they can issue an area of concern or notice of violation and have us take care of it at that point. We also have the air district that deals with air quality odors, and if there's a complaint filed with them, they'll come out and investigate. So we're being heavily regulated. We have a lot of people looking at us. So we really don't see it as an issue, and if there is a problem, there's plenty of regulators out there.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anything else? May I have our city clerk read the title of the ordinance number 2353?
Yes, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Victorville adopting Desert Gateway Specific Plan Amendment PLN 15-00027 to redesignate property from light industrial to public utility and to conditionally permit recycling centers within the public utility land use district.
Can we take the ordinance and the two resolutions together in one motion?
Can.
The ordinance would require the waiving of further reading and introduction.
Oh, that's part of your
A
motion.
motion and waive further reading? Second.
Motions to also then adopt both resolutions.
Adopt
All in one
both.
motion.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. McEachran. All those in favor?
Aye. So
Those
that took-
opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
That did all three of them.
So that took care of all three?
Yes, it did.
Thank you. Now we move on to B4. And I open the public hearing, granting a public convenience and necessity certificate to always available transportation. And I do not have any cards. And is there anyone that would like to address the council on this? I don't see anyone. So I close the public hearing. And do we have any comments by our city council members?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
And now we move on to item C, consent calendar.
Move approval.
I do have one call.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine. The consent calendar, items C1 through C16, be approved with one motion. However, I do have one card. Vida Adams.
I won't slow you down, Jim. I just want to thank you. I hope that the change on that section of Bear Valley Road will be of value to the community. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Second your motion, Jim.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. McEachran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to item D, written communications. Item D1, general services provider agreement for furnish and deliver concrete products. Madam Clerk, will you please read the recommendation?
The recommendation is that the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority Board of Directors approve the award of general services provider agreement to both High Grade Materials Company and Robertson's for furnish and deliver concrete products, each in the amount not to exceed $25,000.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D2, General Services Provider Agreement for Annual Supply Agreements, Hot Mix Asphalt. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
The recommendation is that the Southern California Logistics Airport Authority Board of Directors approve the award of general services provider agreements to both Blue Diamond Materials and Vulcan Materials for annual supply agreement for hot mix asphalt, each in the amount not to exceed $10,000.
Move approval.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. McEachran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D3, Consult Professional Services Provider Agreement Amendment Number 3, West Coast I can't even pronounce it. Arborist, Inc. Thank you. Madam Clerk, will you please read the recommendation?
The recommendation is that the City Council approve Amendment Number 3 for the increase in award to Consultant Professional Services Provider Agreement with West Coast Arborists, Inc. in the not-to-exceed amount of $27,258 for a total contract not-to-exceed amount of $120,293 for tree trimming services in open space designated areas for fiscal year 2015-2016.
Question for staff. Doug, will the arborists be checking the trees that are not being watered in some of the median areas to let us know if we have any that are failing?
That is a good question. I'll have to ask Doug Matthews to come up. They're essentially tree trimmers, but they have helped us with other arboreal issues, I'll say, such as the Christmas tree, trying to decide exactly which species would be best.
Because they won't trim all trees, will they?
They will not, no.
No, they're only some.
Yeah, they will be checking condition and making recommendations, specifically those in the Green Tree Islands. They're somewhat stressed because they're used to getting water from the grass, and now they're having to go deeper to get the water because the watering's been changed. With the new contract, we're getting in place to redo those islands. The watering's even going to change more to get them watered deeper. They have identified one tree out there that needs to be removed, but the rest of them look like they'll be okay.
So we're keeping an eye on this issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of this whole contract is to assess the condition of the trees to know which ones could be a danger, which ones, are close to dead already, and we don't want anything falling in the roadway or on a car or on a person.
Doug, you brought it up. Christmas tree. They recommended light strands this year. Doug, I wouldn't leave if I were you.
Sorry, Doug.
I'm curious how an arborist recommends light strands to replace an existing tree. When are we going to actually see a replacement tree for the one that we took out?
Yeah, I didn't get involved in that one. That one's Christian's.
That's actually
thankfully.
Okay, let's pass the buck around here.
Sorry.
I just want a tree. I want a real tree at City Hall.
Yeah,
when are we going to get a real tree at City Hall?
That planting it in the fall in time for Christmas would not have resulted in the best chance for it to survive. So we're looking at a spring planting. We have consulted with them, and we will also be talking with you quite a bit because you were the Rotary president when Rotary donated the first tree. So we want to get your buy-in as well as the Rotary Club's buy-in.
Yeah. Was that on the agenda?
No, he brought it up. So
I opened that door.
I digress.
Okay, we will be moving on to item D4.
Mayor Garcia, I believe we still need an action on
Oh,
item
that's
D3.
right. I'm sorry.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, now I'm moving on to D4. Reject bids of metals for furnish and deliver of 4 trucks under Project ES 16-036. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
The recommendation is that the City Council and Victorville Water District Board of Directors approve the rejection of the 4 bid submittals for the purchase of the 4 trucks in support of various City of Victorville divisions.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Cox, second by Mr. McEachran. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D5, Mojave River Walk Final Design Agreement and Appropriation of Additional Funds. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendations.
Recommendation is that the City Council appropriate an additional $280,050 from Fund Number 230, the Local Transportation Fund, and an additional $180,482 from a Sandbag TDA Article 3 grant, and that the City Council approve the Consultant Professional Services Provider Agreement with Alta Planning and Design for the Mojave Riverwalk final design in an amount not to exceed $490,382.
Go for approval.
Question, Doug. Seems to me I remember a conversation that as this Riverwalk proceeds, we're going to have the opportunity to do some street improvements or at least repairs. Am I remembering that correctly?
It's not so much the Riverwalk project as it is some of the other bike lane projects that we're going to be doing using LTF funds. The LTF funds will pay for roughly 15% of the road rehab because that's how much is a bike lane. A portion of this project is on existing city streets, most of which are already in good condition.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D6, change order and additional appropriation for Turner Wash drainage improvements to add work for Verde Street or drainage improvements. Madam Clerk, please read recommendations.
Recommendation is that the City Council appropriate an additional $80,000 from Fund 202 Storm Drain Utility and approve a change order in the amount of $80,000 to the contract with O'Duffy Brothers, Inc. for the Turner Wash drainage improvements to add work for drainage improvements to Verde Street.
Question? By the way, I think Councilmember Negretti gets a fair amount of credit for this thing being on our agenda. Nice job, Eric. But question is, what are we actually doing? Are we creating a new water?
So right now, Councilmember Kennedy, we're done, basically.
Oh.
So when you say doing, you mean what have we done? This is in part ratifying a decision made by staff because of the impending storm threats. What we had previously on Verde Street and at the other project site in the area of Lacey and Center was essentially just a standard opening in the curb face that leads down to a storm drain. The same storm drain is still there. However, instead of just having an opening in the curb face, there's also about a 6-foot by 18-inch grate that extends into the roadway, so that instead of having just about a 6-inch opening that could potentially get blocked, if it does get blocked, it gives us a lot more surface area to catch the water and get it into that storm drain. The storm drain itself is not enlarged, just simply the opening getting to it.
Now, is there something we did on Center that reduced the amount of flow that ends up on Verde? Is that?
Yes, a similar project on Center that would hopefully capture water before it traverses all the way down to Verde Street.
And I spoke this afternoon about looking at the drainage at the northeast corner of Verde and Hesperia Road, which twice has stopped up because of the rains, and there is a good probability that the enlarged drainage facility on Verde will handle it, but still, it's a very small drain, and there's a lot of water that accumulates from the runoff to the east and from down Hesperia Road.
We'll take another look at that, Mayor Pro Tem Cox. You said, I thought earlier today you said southeast corner? Is it southeast or northeast?
Yes. Let's see. This would be southeast. I'm sorry.
Southeast.
Let me turn the map. You're right. Southeast.
I'm waiting for Councilman Negretti to make a motion.
Thank you. Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Negretti, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D7, amendment to professional services agreement with Woodard and Curran to add additional services for a biogas boiler at the Victorville wastewater treatment facility. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
The recommendation is that the Victorville Water District Board of Directors amend the professional services agreement with Woodard and Curran dated August 21st, 2008 for engineering services for the installation of a biogas boiler for the Victorville Wastewater Treatment Facility with an increase in the amount of $124,087.
For approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D8, amendment number 2 to agreement with project partners. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
Recommendation is that the City Council approve the amendment number 2 to a consultant professional services provider agreement with Project Partners, Inc., increasing the contract amount by $35,000 and extending the time until June 30th, 2016.
I have a question. I am for this, but what capital projects?
This engineer is assisting with the major road projects that we have, specifically Bear Valley Road and La Mesa Road.
Do they have sewer and water background? Spent a lot of time today talking about major projects needed in the water department. When those are done, they're done. We might consider project engineers for some of those projects. Maybe, I don't know.
This particular engineer's background is more in streets, but we just filled a position. There's still a vacant position, but we just filled a position that was in the budget. An engineer started today, and he'll be assisting with the water projects. And by the way, we're also using consultants to design those projects. We're outsourcing it as well.
Thank you. Motion or?
We need a motion on this item, yes.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachran, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Item D9, adoption of recognized obligation payment schedule, ropes for period commencing July 2nd, 2016, and ending June 30th, 2017, as set forth in resolution number R-SA-16-001. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
The recommendation is that the successor agency to the Victorville Redevelopment Agency Board of Directors adopt resolution number RSA 16-001, thereby approving the annual recognized obligation payment schedule for the period commencing July 1st, 2016 and ending on June 30th, 2017.
Question. Because this is future liability or unfunded indebtedness, is there an amount of money that somebody is going to determine that needs to be raised or put in an account, or is it going to be raised every year? I'm assuming there's an unfunded liability in the retirement account until they leave this earth, so how long is this going to be paid and how much? I know what it's for, but are there actual dollar figures that anybody has calculated?
Yes, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem and members of the council. So this is a ROP schedule, and we've attempted to bring this before you, sometimes due to timing constraints. We've taken it straight to the Oversight Board, and this item is really being presented more so to keep you informed as to the ROPS process. There is a schedule attached, I believe. I'm looking for it. Yes. There is a schedule attached in the staff write-up that is the actual ROP schedule, and it summarizes all of the debt obligations that are recognized by staff that staff is seeking for retirement over a period of time that I would say is generally unknown. I think it's safe to say that the obligations continue to get paid so long as there's sufficient property tax money generated from the old project area to pay those off. As items are paid off, then they're retired effectively. So with that, this item is prepared by Ms. Sophie Smith, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to her.
Mr. Cox, was the question how long this process will continue as far as the annual approvals, or more specifically to the retirement item?
Well, if you have, excuse me, if you had redevelopment agency employees, the redevelopment agency was also paying salary and benefits. Benefits included PERS. Now, we don't have redevelopment, but there was an obligation to fund that retirement. Let's say they worked for the city 30 years, but only 4 years for the RDA. I don't know who calculates the amount of money. It isn't their whole retirement. And it can't be unless somebody has been with at least 20-some years or so on.
That's correct.
And I wondered who sat down and figured out what that debt would be, because the ROPS total of $8 million some dollars didn't seem quite reasonable.
So $8 million represents the amount of obligations that are due by the successor agency during fiscal year 16-17. It consists of items such as debt service on the bonds that the RDA had issued, ongoing obligations pursuant to old contracts that the RDA had. What you're referring to as far as the unfunded liabilities of former RDA employees, there's actually a line item, the very last line item. I think you all were provided with a larger version that was in there, but the last item, I think it's 51, request funding in the amount of $20,000 for a consultant to actually consult with CalPERS and calculate the unfunded liability of former RDA employees, so that on a subsequent ROPS, the city can request funding, and the successor agency can request that those outstanding liabilities be funded. But the schedule that you're looking at in the $8 million is just dealing with a small portion, $20,000, that will actually fund that study. We anticipate coming back in October or before October 1st and having the results of that study and asking for actual funding of those outstanding pension liabilities.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Now I understand.
Okay.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, staff would like to draw attention specific to an item that is of concern to us, and it's just something that we're going to have to deal with going forward. But in the latest round of ROPS approvals and disapprovals, there were items specific to Foxborough Rail, and it's items 7 and 8, which is actually discussed in the staff report. And effectively, the successor agency had been successful up until very recently in being able to draw down monies from the old project area to help satisfy O&M, operation and maintenance, and repair related costs associated with the rail spur line that serves Goodyear, Nutro, ConAgra Foods, Church and Dwight, for example. And the history behind that is that the RDA actually paid for the construction of about 3,000 or 4,000 lineal feet of rail line, including spurs and switches. It constructed those improvements upon right-of-way of the city. So effectively the view of the Department of Finance now is that those are improvements of the city, and the state is asking us to effectively terminate the contract between the RDA and BNSF to allow for the rolling of cars on that line. I'm bringing that to your attention because effectively going forward we're going to have to realize that as an asset of the city, which then comes with an O&M responsibility no different than, say, a road or a public infrastructure component of the city. So the issue that we're going to have to deal with going forward is working with those that are beneficiaries of that rail service, the actual users themselves, and figure out some kind of mechanism, because right now there isn't a funding mechanism after the current ROP cycle ends to undertake future O&M. And we'll work towards trying to develop some kind of mechanism to fund those improvements.
Madam Mayor, and Mr. Metzler, that brings up huge questions as to Southern California Logistics Rail Authority and what we do with that entity and the contracts we have entered into there. I don't expect an answer here tonight, but I think that that's something that obviously this council needs to address on a go-forward basis, only because you brought that to our attention, and that's obviously a concern of the Department of Finance. And not so much an RDA issue, but it goes to the new reporting requirements. I'm going to defer to Councilmember Kennedy, who knows much more about this than I do. But I know that in other boards and commissions I sit on, there's GASB requirements as to the long-term pension liabilities. They must be reported, yet our city doesn't yet have an audit that is reporting that. And I'm just curious if you could give the public an answer as to when that audit's going to be public and when we can expect it.
I think
answer on that.
we have scheduled a meeting of the audit committee, so the auditors are presenting the draft. And it's in January?
February 2nd.
February, and that's about the schedule that we've had, and I'm confident they are as prepared as anyone can be on dealing with that liability.
Yeah, and I that doesn't seem out of line. I just know that we have to report. That's a new reporting requirement this year, and so it's going to definitely have an effect on our financial statements. And I'm just curious to see what that effect is, only because it was brought up during the context of this conversation as to former RDA, but obviously in the larger sense, the city, SCLA, the water district, all of our entities that we oversee and what our pension liabilities are. I definitely want to see what those numbers are.
I think we should be prepared for previously unreported, currently unfunded liability of somewhere in the neighborhood of $16-17 million. And that's just going to be a one-time hit, and it'll spread over various agencies. It's not all general fund. And that number, I could be off by a couple million dollars without much problem. The liability that will not appear in our financial statements for another 2 years, I think, is the OPEB liability. That's the other post-employment benefits. That's the lifelong health insurance obligation, which is probably going to be an unfunded liability in excess of $20 million. So that's going to hit in a couple of years. So be prepared. You may have a better number than mine, Doug.
I don't have those numbers in my head at all at this point, so I have too many other numbers in there. So, but then additionally, for those of you that may be going to the city-county conference, Councilmember Kennedy and our former audit partner, Ken Alamam, are actually going to be doing about a 45-minute presentation on GASB 68.
We are?
You are. You agreed to do it.
He's going to do all the heavy lifting, right?
He'll do the heavy
Ken
lifting.
Alamam is just a wonderful
Jim
expert
Kennedy
on this.
will give sort of a council perspective, what council members need to be aware of.
There is an action required on item D9 still.
So we need a motion?
After that,
we drifted a bit.
We need a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McEachern, second by Mr. Kennedy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
And we move on to D10. Award of contract to Water Systems Consulting, Inc., WSC, for 2015 Urban Water Management Plan. Madam Clerk, please read the recommendation.
Recommendation is that the Victorville Water District Board of Directors award Water Systems Consulting, Inc., WSC, a contract to prepare the 2015 Urban Water Management Plan as budgeted in the fiscal year 2015-2016 capital improvement project budget for an amount not to exceed $50,000.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Kennedy, second by Mr. Cox. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None opposed. Motion carries unanimously.
Now we move on to public comments. And item E1, and I do have one card. I don't know if they're still here. Thomas Ormley. I hope I pronounced your name correctly, sir.
Good evening. This is addressed to the mayor. I wrote, when you campaigned to become mayor, You said that you wanted to clean up Victorville's negative attitude. I've wrote you 3 letters. You've never replied. And the reason being, it seems as if you folks are tied to that end of the building. I have here 32 people that have gone down to the other end of this building to open a small business. They were not only complacent, but they recommended they not do it. There's something wrong when you've got this many. And what's happening, you're turning down the small businessman, and you know what he's doing? He's going home and working in his garage in the backyard. If you'd like to take a ride with me, in 20 minutes, I'll show you a minimum of 30 people working out of their backyard because the city doesn't want them. A small business goes into business and doesn't ask you folks for anything. You license them, it's his cost. He gambles with society that he's going to make it. I've been here 35 years, and Victorville used to be a great place. But everybody you talk to now, talk to a realtor about commercial. They don't even want to touch it because there's too many stipulations. What it costs to go into business. I've been very reserved, but I've wrote letters to the gentleman on your right and the gentleman on your left. I never got a reply. Now, there's got to be something done with this small businessman because you're losing out. And the small businessman, 74% of what he makes stays in the community. He produces jobs. He produces sales tax. Why don't you want them? Why do you put such stipulations on them? It's insanity. I had a piece of
30 seconds.
3 minutes I'm supposed to do this? Okay. I'll leave.
Thank you, sir.
You had 30 seconds still.
That was the only card that I had. Now we move on to E2, report from city manager.
Staff has no additional comments at this time.
Reports from council members.
Yeah, a couple things. I think, and I'm going to go ahead and comment to that comment because I think it's worthy of a response. We have spent time at our last strategic planning workshop and gave some fairly clear marching orders to our planning department, our planning director, to do better in this area. I believe we still are attracting small businesses. I believe there are small businesses opening all the time, and we're seeing steady growth in our commercial. So while I'm not arguing that there are 30 people working out of their garage, I don't think that's the whole answer. Personally, I'd like for us all to know who those 30 people are that have been turned down, and we'll pass that along to planning and see if we can't correct that. The other things, after our strategic planning meeting, we had some 2 or 4 people come up and speak about an Old Town group that was meeting. The mayor and I both attended that meeting, and Sophie Smith was there. And this is a group that's attempting to identify the problems in Old Town as they are seen by the people who live in Old Town, not the people who live outside and work in City Hall. But they gathered a group of about 35, 40 people, and it was a great discussion. And they've identified 8 or 9 different items, and they're trying to focus on 2. And I thought the 2 they selected were very good. And we're going to continue paying attention to this group, attending their meetings, and listening carefully to what they're saying. And I think the council will see over the next few months possibly some recommendations that will help them address the problems they've identified. I want to extend my personal thanks to Doug Matthews and Brian Gengler and all their staff and our consultant. Please pass those words on. I think we had an effective water rate study workshop today. All questions aren't answered, decisions aren't made, but it was a great informational experience, and thanks to all of you for a job well done. Finally, I'd like to compliment our mayor on her presentations over the weekend at the various Martin Luther King events. I'm beginning to think, even with two former mayors sitting at the table, that she may be the most beloved mayor I've yet seen in Victorville. I don't know. I mean, that's
All you have to do is look at the two former members at the table.
earlier comments notwithstanding. I think she is greatly appreciated and loved by the people of Victorville.
Thank you. I really do feel that.
Just a
We have that in mind.
we have his information. As to my report, the Mountain Desert Measure I Committee met on Friday. Interestingly enough, at our strategic planning meeting, Jay, you came up to me and you asked me about a new interchange, and of course you reported on it. And little did I know at that time that there was a lot of going back and forth between staff, between Hesperia and Victorville, on that particular interchange. On Friday, both Hesperia and Victorville agreed to remove Mojave Smoke Tree from the Nexus study. What we did not agree upon, and what remains to be seen, is eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is a little bit north of there, and Victorville would like to retain it. Hesperia would like to remove it. What the committee agreed to do was keep eucalyptus until Hesperia and Victorville can communicate as to percentage of share with respect to development impact fees associated with that interchange. But it begged, and it creates an interesting question as to what jurisdiction should pay what with respect to projects. And so I think we're going to be looking at that even more so as it relates to the Green Tree extension over to Ridgecrest across the railroad tracks, and how that connects to Apple Valley and Ecoloma. I don't know if that goes anywhere, but with respect to interchanges, eucalyptus is still on our as a part of our interchange program, and Doug and I will be meeting with the new city manager over in Hesperia, as well as former Mayor Eric Schmidt, to work through those details.
I wanted to respond. When individuals come before the council, it's not on the agenda. We don't engage in a lot of conversation simply because if it was on the agenda, all those people who had interest in that particular subject would have been here. And so I'm not going to enter into the discussion except to say to Mr. Gormley that I have a personal policy of responding to every piece of correspondence I receive, either by referring it to the manager or the department or looking into what the problem might be. I can't tell anyone how many times I've been contacted. The mayor, other members of the council, we take this seriously. And if I don't know, I can't believe that I received 3 pieces of correspondence from anybody and no one responded, because generally when I receive that, forward it on, and I may respond, but it takes 3 members of the council here, and we have talked about inviting people here, making it easier to open the business, but it always gets responded. And I'm told always that there's a response to the individual if there is a specific issue that can be addressed. I don't respond to people who just complain. Obviously, it wouldn't do any good. But no, you can't. I'm sorry. I'll get back to you and I'll contact you privately, but we can't engage in that here. It's not on the agenda. I just want everyone to know that we do respond, and other council members respond. And we know a lot of people. We know a lot of instances where people come to City Hall, they want to open a business, and when they find what the requirements are, and they're not specifically our requirements, but the health and safety requirements, they do open a business in their homes, and when we are aware of that, you can get a home occupation permit and a business license to operate your business in the home, and we accommodate those individuals also. So I don't want anyone to leave with a belief that we are receiving requests or complaints and ignoring them. We don't do that. I want to make that clear.
Is there anything else from council members? This meeting is adjourned.